Hey, I'm Jason Sauer. Some of y'all know me, some of y'all don't. But here's my podcast, Cash on the Hood. In this episode, have any of y'all ever been to court? I call myself Most Wanted Fine Art. So in this episode, I'm going to tell you how I got in trouble for building without a permit and the 6-year court ordeal that it took for me to get out of that. And it's not pretty. There's reasons why you got these veins in your neck. Listen to the whole thing. Hey, it's Jason Sauer. I'm back with the Cash on the Hood podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening in. Of course, please like, share, and subscribe. I got to say it every time, but that's how these podcasts go. And, of course, we can't do a podcast without our man Brian from the Cinema Psychos. His Cinema Psychos is nearing 400 shows, and the Lipson group helps us put these podcast shows out. So thank you so much. So today's episode, or this episode you're listening to, is back when I was in contracting. I got a story to tell about a court case that has finally been settled. Oh boy. So it started way back when this contractor wanted to have a new art gallery, if you will, and wanted to create a space for poets, a place where there was a green grass and a place for poetry could live and be free and just have a place for expression in the neighborhood. So this contractor went to city zoning, had the property rezoned it to be an artistic space, allowed it to become an art museum, if you will, in the end, which was the grandest of all grand ideas. But if you're from the city of Pittsburgh, that you know that there's a Randy Land, and with a Randy Land, visionary artists have grand spaces. And I knew that visionary artists have to deal with the legal because they don't start with the legal. They just start building and creating. So having traveled America and seeing the Orange Show there in Houston where we do the art car parade and the other spaces, I knew that our client needed to have get the zoning in, make sure before all the investments were made that they were allowed without needing appeals or amendments to law, because that's where it gets costly and artists don't have money for lawyers. So having the foreknowledge, getting that information done, they were able to pass, city council. That all worked out, and then the project kind of just went on hold until COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, what really happened was we realized in the drastic, world way it was changing that we may never be able to hold events again where we could have people together, even though we specifically designed the space to be outdoors. So with our free time and boredom of COVID, we took the museum idea and decided to shrink it down to essentially a carport where art is made, and kind of scrapped the whole idea, but we never told anybody. We just went ahead and started building. We put the permit in, and we never had that zoning change. But the irony of this 7-year case is the drawing, because of COVID, they had everybody have to be online. So we were so used to handing in a piece of paper. And I, as the general contractor, had put the drawing in the wrong drop-down menu in the new grant-funded application process. But the grant-funded application process never had grant funding to fix the bugs in the grant design of the permit process. This really gets to some of my court case. Some of the court cases 100% me, but some of this court cases on them. Where I'd done my due diligence and did my paperwork. But what is, I had put the drawing in the wrong drop-down menu, and that drawing never made its way to wherever it went. And by the time it made its way there, I was already in trouble for building. And this is where I was naive. I put my drawing in, whatever else. You get a number. Here's your building permit number. And I'm thinking, oh, that was easy. I'm like, they've really streamlined this. You know what I mean? So I get my number, I tape it to the window of my house, and I build my carport to make my art in, and kind of scrap the idea of having a museum and everything that I had. And I just wanted to build a space where we could be outside as a family, separated from one another, if this is how the new normal of the world was going to be. But where I'd failed was, carports. I didn't go back into zoning to say, hey, this is only going to be a homeowner project. You know what I mean? It doesn't need all these super certifications. So when we got in trouble, this is where Bill Burr has that joke about old men in the HOA where they build a porch, and you can see they lose the weight and they're getting buff old men, which is what I'm trying to do. But the neck thing, Bill Burr says, shows how the HOA made him take down his porch. This is a real story. Bill Burr is joking about Jason Sauer. All right. This is real. All right. So they made me bring out core drillers. So I had to bring out core drilling to prove that I don't live on a filled-in coal mine. All right. Or the client doesn't live on a coal mine. All right. So we had to bring out an excavator, dig some holes. We had to get a geological survey. But the problem is, as you see, the rest of the neighborhood, what is they're building on slabs. But they're really making me do all this as if I'm going to be having this giant museum business there. And I'm trying to fight them the whole way. And the fight was that I wanted just a carport. So, but we had to follow the rules because I got in trouble. We had to make sure all rules were followed. And I'm a nervous Nelly. That's where the neck thing is. I know I call myself most wanted, but I don't like being in trouble. I don't want my neighbors thinking I'm a jagoff. I want them thinking I'd done my due diligence. I had went to city council. I said, hey, I want to be an artist on top of this hill. And I want to make sure that's cool with everybody. You know what I mean? So, we had the paper that we put up and stapled on the trees outside. And, we did our due diligence. And it wasn't anything but a paperwork issue, but that paperwork issue lasted 6 years of paperwork, only to land back where we started. So I'm telling you, I lived 6 years. So you guys saw me kind of live a reserved life for 6 years, because I would walk out of my house thinking, oh my gosh, I'm a criminal, because they would take me to court. And court would be like, how much paperwork do you got done? And I'd be like, this is all the paperwork I have done. We just sample cord. You know what I mean? It just takes years to get through the paperwork because court's every 6 months. So I would just live my life as feeling like I was a criminal, and it really, really hurt my feelings. And I've told my friends a million times, even though I thought I had done it right, I didn't. I didn't do it right. I put the paper in the wrong drop-down menu. And I naively thought that the issuance of the number was the number and not, I had to wait for approval, which came as a second issuance. And by the time it was issued to me, I'd already built the carport because it's not that big, because everything takes 6 months. I had it all done. By the time I got my second letter from court, I had already drywalled it and had the electrical inspection. So it was done. Only because I wanted to put an outlet outside. I went above and beyond and paid the electrical inspection for an outlet outside. So I'm making it sound like whatever. I'm sure the city has a different way they want to tell that story. But I'm letting you guys know that if you have the ability and resources to pull a permit and get an architect and do it right, the gunslinging days are over. I'm letting you know that being able to just, I don't know, maybe where you're at. I know my uncle in Texas doesn't have to pull a permit, but in the city of Pittsburgh, you do. And you got to learn a code, which is called One Stop. And it's an actual job for people at construction sites that I had to learn, because this grant-funded website is how the city ran permits. And if you ever hit the back button, it eliminates everything you had in this button. And in that back button, your drop-down menu gets lost, and so do your drawings. And I want to let you know, if you are watching City, that hurt. That was 6 years of making me feel really guilty. And that hurt. But I'm just a tale to you guys. We got out of it. I did everything I was supposed to do. I jumped through every hoop with grace. I never lost my cool. I just said, okay, yes, sir. I'm going to do my paperwork because I don't like that. I don't want to be. They even made me do community service. I did 120 hours of community service for this. They were really upset with me with that timing of the whole project, and they really let me have it. But in that time, we had built and renovated 4 other houses, so I'd already passed inspection perfectly as a general contractor, full renovation houses, top to bottom, inside and out. So it was embarrassing at court that the guy that you deal with all week long on all your other houses, and then you got this carport that you jammed up during COVID, holding over my head. And it was tough because I couldn't be friends with these guys because I had this court case over my head. I couldn't be friends because, I couldn't use any friend privilege or anything. I wanted to just be straight and narrow, which is why I went to city council the very first time. I wanted to be true with the city, that who I am and what my project was here on top of the hill. Like, I want to be an artist who makes art, and I don't want you guys holding me back by some legal loophole. You know what I mean? Because Randy is out there, and it's tough for Randy. There's a lot of back. If you know about Randy and Randyland, Randy had a partner who was much better at the back end work of getting their stuff legal, and Randy not so much. So thankfully Randy has friends now who is helping him through the legal quagmire, and luckily they're architects who can redo the drawings and do these type of things. So it's tough as an artist. That's a lesson learned. Being a visionary artist, thinking that you can just build something in a city center without permits is, hey, don't get these lines on your neck. Pull the permit, do the right thing, hire the contractor. Don't do 6 years of court like me. That's my lesson I'm giving to you guys in this episode is please do the right thing and pull a permit. Hire, seriously, it's tough. I really had to hold that weight over my heart because every time I saw my inspector, I want to be like, hey, buddy, we're out here doing drywall, we're kicking butt. You know what I mean? I want to talk about the job site buddy. But instead, they're like, oh, Sour, your court case, man. I'm like, I'm getting it done. I had to get another architect to do another drawing of another portion of another thing. So, because I made a piece of sculpture. And my sculpture, I already planned it. I poured footers for my sculpture. And my sculpture is really big and very much like Richard Serra. If you follow that artist, his sculpture's out front of the Carnegie Museum, that giant called, and Pittsburgh Steel made his sculpture. So my sculpture was from my childhood. I saw the local hotel burn down, and I knew where the beam was that held that hotel up. So during COVID, we were bored, and I'm like, I want to make a sculpture that holds up my lean-to, my carport. And so that was its own 2-year episode. I just want to make sure everyone's legal and cool, and that way if I ever have to go sell this house, there's no back paperwork. Everything's legal. So yeah, I had already known that. I already made 3-foot footers deep for my sculpture, which is way overkill. My sculpture is designed to hold 7 stories of building, and it's only holding a tiny metal shed roof. Pretty funny. All right, that's my story. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of this. Like, share, subscribe. My name is Jason Sauer again, and I'm just trying to tell you stories of what it's like to be in the grind of an artist, of a guy who thinks he's made it a bunch of times, but really we're just out here exploring the next levels and trying to get to the next level, and it's a grind, and the next level is not affordable. So I'm going to here to tell you all about it. So thanks. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks again for Brian Behind the Deck. Cinema Psychos is the #1 podcast in the world, and Libsyn is the guys who host us. Thank you.